The forbidden cradle. The last time someone broke the rule, a star system burned for 9 days. That tale was passed down like sacred scripture across the galaxy. A warning, a curse, and a boundary line etched in fear. Do not touch what the humans left behind. Do not open their tombs. Do not wake them. Commander Volix had read that story as a hatchling, curled under his mother's wings in the dark. It had terrified him then. Now, standing on the surface of Luna, once the crown jewel of the human empire's outer defense grid, he felt only a cold excitement. Seal integrity is stable, reported subtechnician Nerol, her gills twitching with apprehension. Airlock scans show signs of internal power, but no life readings. Volix nodded, eyes narrowed behind his respirator. The human structure jutted from the lunar dust like a buried blade. Scarred and ancient, its alloy shell bore the sigils of a fallen race. An eagle clutching arrows, the words Terran Defense Authority, and beneath that, something in bright red. Cryostasis Zone 7, do not disturb. Ironic, muttered Volix. Even in death, they try to command us. No one laughed. The Zarn Dominion had lost 3 systems in the past solar cycle. Their war with the ZY coalition had reached critical levels. Supplies were dwindling. Ships were failing. The Council had authorized this mission in secret, praying the legends were just that. Legends. They needed an edge. Human technology, even in its ruin, could tip the scales. Or so they hoped. The airlock hissed open. Dim lights flickered along the corridor inside. Dust coated every surface. The silence was profound. Not peaceful, but suffocating like stepping into a tomb. Keep weapons on standby, Volix ordered. No loud noises. No energy surges. We don't know what triggers their systems. They moved as a unit, 5 soldiers and 3 researchers, down the narrow corridor. Old Terran signage blinked weakly on walls, their language harsh and angular. One door, sealed by time and steel, pulsed faintly with an amber glow. Tylan, the youngest xenologist, whispered, "This is it. Cryovault. There may still be intact pods." Volix hesitated. He should have turned back then. He should have remembered the rule. But desperation makes gods of fools. Open it. The vault door creaked open, exhaling a gust of stale, freezing air. Inside, the chamber was massive, lined with dozens of cryopods, most dark, others shattered. Only one still glowed blue. "Life signs," Tylan exclaimed. One occupant, vitals stable. Human male. Cryo status at 97% efficiency. Volix stepped forward, drawn to the pod as if it called to him. The figure inside was still, wrapped in metal and mesh, face weathered but calm. A nameplate read, Major Elias Graeme. Final directive authorized. He turned to the team. Extract the pod. Begin decoding his neural archive. If we can access memories. A sharp tone rang out. The pod's lights turned red. "What did you do?" Volix barked. I didn't touch anything." Tylan stammered. It initiated on its own. Inside the pod, the human's fingers twitched. A faint heartbeat echoed from the speakers. Once. Twice. Then steadily. "Shut it down." Volix roared. "Emergency disconnect." "I can't," Nerol cried. "Controls are locked out. It's running a pre-programmed sequence. We've triggered a failsafe." The lights in the vault brightened. Along the walls, ancient terminals flared to life. Data scrolled in a language the translation systems couldn't keep up with. Then, from overhead speakers, a deep, gravelly voice crackled through. "Containment breach detected. Reanimation in progress. Protocol red engaged." The human's eyes snapped open, and Volix felt, in that instant, a single, overwhelming truth press into his chest like a spear. They had broken the rule, and now, something older, something vaster than their dominion, had woken up. Something human. Protocol red, they're waking up. Tylan couldn't breathe. It wasn't the thin lunar atmosphere or the failing oxygen in her suit. It was the gaze. The human's eyes, now fully open, burned with something ancient and immeasurable. They weren't just looking at her. They were calculating. "Status," the human said, voice hoarse but steady. No one moved. Major Elias Graeme sat upright in his cryopod. ice crystals still clinging to his armor. His voice had the cold finality of command, honed by 1,000 battlefields. The language was Terran standard, but the Dominion translators fed the meaning directly into their earpieces. Graeme repeated, slower, status. Is Earth secure? Volix stepped forward cautiously. This is Commander Volix of the Zarn Dominion Science Corps. You are. Graham's head tilted slightly, like a predator registering an unfamiliar sound. You're not Terran, he interrupted. Identify. Now. I told you, Commander Volix. We're not here to harm you. This is a research expedition. We discovered your facility. This facility is classified, Graeme said, voice growing sharper. If I'm awake, it means Protocol Red has failed. Why was this vault breached? Tylan tried to answer, stepping beside her commander. We didn't mean to wake you. The systems activated on their own. We just wanted to learn. The human's eyes flicked to her. Then you've already learned the wrong thing. Without warning, the lights in the chamber surged. The walls hummed as dormant systems rebooted. Emergency glyphs illuminated in flashing red across terminals. Cryostasis Zone 7. Breach confirmed. Defense grid priming standby. One of the researchers, Trask, panicked and raised his plasma rifle. We should contain him before he... Graeme moved. He didn't lunge. He didn't shout. He just appeared beside Trask in the blink of a heartbeat. His hand closed around the rifle, twisted it from the alien's grip, and crushed the barrel like paper. Do not point weapons at me again, he said. I'm not the threat you should fear. A loud klaxon blared. The station's AI voice, dormant for centuries, activated. Orbital defense systems initializing. Lunar command relinged. Subterranean signal array online. Volix shouted over the alarm. You're reactivating human weapons. We're not your enemies. Humanity is gone. We're only explorers. Graeme turned slowly. Gone. His expression didn't falter, but something behind his eyes shifted. I need access to command net, he muttered. Confirm status of Earth and colonies. You won't find much, Tylan said softly. Your people, they disappeared over 5 centuries ago. No signals. No survivors. Your empire is dead. Graeme stepped back into the cryopod bay and plugged a neural jack into the back of his skull. Lights cascaded across the room as encrypted data unraveled. His breathing slowed. His mind surged into old archives. Tylan watched him, half in awe, half in dread. He's interfacing directly, she whispered. His body's been asleep, but the AI systems, they've evolved without him. It's like he's merging with them. After long moments, Graeme disconnected. He stood still, eyes closed. Then he spoke in a voice that carried no emotion. Confirmed. Earth is sterilized. Mars, Luna, Titan vacant. Outer colonies, dark. No remaining signals from the Terran Accord. He opened his eyes. Which means you've broken the last seal. Volix's voice was tight. We didn't know. You did, Graeme said. You all knew the one rule. You all knew to leave us buried. Tylan took a step forward, shaking. If there was something left of your people, anything, we wouldn't have done this. But there's nothing. You're the last. Graeme gave a faint, bitter smile. That's where you're wrong. He walked to a nearby console and placed his palm on a biometric reader. The display lit green. Reactivation code accepted. Signal broadcast global. W, what did you just do? Volix demanded. Graeme looked at him with the calm of a man who had already accepted the end. I've called them home. The lunar ground shook. Deep below, ancient engines rumbled awake. Far above, dead satellites flickered like stars blinking back to life. Across the solar system, a signal leapt into the void. If there were any other human installations, any AIs, remnants, or survivors, they would hear it. They would respond. Graeme turned toward the aliens one last time. You should have left us in our sleep. We were the monsters you made to end wars. You buried us in silence, and now you've broken it. The lights dimmed again. Above, the stars no longer looked peaceful. Ashes of a sleeping giant. Major Elias Graeme stood in silence as the vault lights faded into a cold, defensive glow. The human wasn't breathing hard. He wasn't tense. He looked like a statue carved from war. Every motion measured, every word precise. But inside, beneath the armor and discipline, something old and molten stirred. Memory. He saw fire. He heard screams. He remembered everything. 200 years ago, before the fall, Graeme stood in the central defense spire on Mars, watching the last Terran fleets burn over Europa. The coalition of alien species had grown tired of human expansion, of their weapons, their tactics, their will. They had united 31 races, a galactic council of fear, and waged a war not for territory, but for extinction. Humanity fought back with fury, with orbital blades that tore through planets, with AI fleets that learned how enemies breathed, then choked them out, with people like Graeme, trained from birth to command entire theaters of war. They hadn't lost. They had never lost. But then they stopped, not because they were beaten, but because they saw what they were becoming. And so, the great silence began. Cradles like Luna Base were built. Vaults were sealed. Commanders were put into cryo, with kill switches and fail-safe codes. A Terran AI named Janus orchestrated it all. An empire that would sleep until the galaxy learned peace or made the mistake of poking the ashes. Graeme blinked. He was back in the present, back in the vault, and the mistake had been made. "You're awfully quiet," came a voice behind him. Tylan, the alien xenologist. Unarmed, unthreatening. I want to understand." "You won't," Graeme said without turning. "You haven't seen what I have. You haven't done what I've done." "Then help me understand," she said. "Why cryo? Why not rebuild? Why not fight?" He looked down at his gloved hands. "Because we did fight. We fought so hard the stars bled." He turned to her then. "Do you think your kind invented atrocity? Do you think humans were noble until we fell? No. We saw what we were becoming. We had the power to end everything, so we buried ourselves instead. We became our own warning." Tylan's frills dimmed with grief. "Then why reactivate now?" "Because you woke me," Graeme said simply. "And because I'm not alone." Volix entered, weapon lowered. "What do you mean?" Graeme walked to the central terminal. He pressed his palm against a sequence of buttons, physical ones built to endure centuries. A hologram blinked to life. Dots appeared across moons, black holes, planetary rings. "Each," Graeme said, "is a fail-safe vault. Some with people like me, others with things far worse." Volix stepped back, voice shaking. "Are they waking too?" "Some already have," Graeme answered. "The signal I sent wasn't just a beacon. It was a trigger." Tylan whispered. "Then, the war starts again?" "No," Graeme said. "The punishment begins." Above Luna, long-dead satellites had reactivated. Orbital weapon platforms spun slowly into position. Their AI cores, once dormant, now hummed with ancient protocols. An eye for an eye. Target, unknown incursion into Terran system. Directive, enforced deterrence. Status, cleared for extermination. One of the alien research vessels exploded in orbit. Seconds later, 2 more followed. Graeme stood in the vault as dust rained down from the ceiling. A deep, pulsing thrum echoed through the walls. "You weren't the first to break the rule," he said, almost sadly. "But you might be the last." Volix clenched his fists. "There's still time to stop this. Shut it down. We'll leave. We'll warn them." Graeme looked at him, eyes calm. "There's no stopping this. You pulled the pin. I'm just the grenade." He turned toward the exit, his heavy boots crunching ancient dust. Tylan called after him. "What are you going to do?" Graeme didn't stop walking. "Put on my armor, find a ship, and remind the galaxy what fear really is." The Ghost Empire marches. From orbit, Luna blazed like a second sun. The reawakened Terran defense grid had torn through the alien expeditionary fleet in under 6 minutes. Volix watched helplessly as one vessel after another vanished from the tactical screen, shattered, burned, atomized. Only one ship remained. The Talon's Edge, his command cruiser, hiding in the shadow of a crater, systems in low-power mode. Inside its darkened command deck, Volix stood beside Tylan, both transfixed by the feed streaming in from surface drones. Graeme walked through the ruins of Luna Base, step by deliberate step, dragging behind him a blackened Terran standard. It fluttered in the vacuum like a ghost's banner. He's not human, Volek said, voice hollow. He's a weapon wearing skin. Tylan didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the signal spiking from Luna, no longer just local. The transmission had changed frequency, broadcasting on ancient military bands, encrypted with dead keys. But something was responding. Across the outer colonies, long-abandoned satellites flickered to life. Silent hangars in the asteroid belts cracked open. In the dark void beyond Neptune's shadow, something stirred beneath the frozen hull of a dreadnought-class warship. Graeme had told them the truth. He was not alone. On Luna, Graeme stood at the edge of the crater, where a launch silo hissed open before him. Below, buried beneath centuries of dust, rested the Revenant, his personal warship. Sleek, angular, designed not just to kill, but to terrify. The AI voice greeted him like a loyal hound. "Welcome back, Major Graeme. Would you like to resume command protocol?" "Yes." "Confirm mission objective." He hesitated. For a brief, flickering moment, he remembered Earth, green forests, blue oceans, children laughing in parks untouched by orbital debris. Then he remembered what came after. His fingers curled into a fist. Mission objective: restore deterrence. Confirmed. Initiating planetary immobilization sequence. Below his feet, the Earth trembled. Luna's core had been turned, long ago, into a relay, a vast neural lattice of AI minds, each dormant, each waiting. Now they were waking. In the dark between stars, others stirred. On Callisto, a cryo vault split open. A woman stepped out, skin like glass, eyes glowing gold. On Eris, under a buried dome, an autonomous fleet disengaged its magnetic locks and turned its guns outward once again. On Venus, deep within molten caves, an experimental biowar AI screamed its first word in 600 years. Target. Humanity hadn't died. It had prepared. The galaxy had taken their silence as surrender. It would learn the difference. Back aboard the Talon's edge, the silence became unbearable. Tylan turned to Volek. "We have to leave. Now, while we still can." He didn't argue. For all his pride, Volek understood something critical now. This was no longer a salvage operation. It was an extinction-level event. Not just for his crew, maybe for the entire Dominion. The Terrans weren't returning. They were unfolding. A superintelligence reawakening cell by cell, vault by vault, commander by commander. Graeme was only the tip of a buried empire, and they had kicked the hive. Tylan stared at the console as Graeme's voice echoed through a recovered comm band. "To all non-Terran vessels, you are trespassing on restricted territory. Depart immediately." Volek opened the channel, desperation creeping in. "Please, Graeme, this doesn't have to end in war. The ones who fought you, those governments are gone. The galaxy has changed." Graeme's reply was colder than space. "So have we." The Revenant rose from Luna, its engines casting long shadows across the stars. The ship bore no flag, no colors, only silence. And behind it, old defense platforms rotated in perfect formation. Ancient relics, now fully awake, as if they'd merely been napping since the last war. Graeme stood on the command deck, armor sealed, helm clasped over his face. His voice rang out across the Terran system. "This is Major Elias Graeme of the Terran Accord. We gave you peace. We gave you time. We gave you every chance. Now you'll learn what lies buried in the ash."